Welcome back, my fellow Zambians, to the 8th of our weekly conversation. Tonight, we walk across the aisle to those who sit opposite the president in parliament and in the country. And we ask the question, what is the opposition for? And what does it mean to be a president for all? Good evening, Your Excellency, President Hakainde Hichilema. Good evening, my fellow Zambians. Mr. President, you know what it feels like to sit on the other side. You sat in opposition for 15 years, and you were turned away 5 times before the country said yes. No leader in our recent history knows better what it is to be on the other side that is not winning. That knowledge, Mr. President, is yours. It is not your blemish. It is a gift. The country has been watching to see whether the man who sat in opposition for so long can build a Zambia in which, sitting in that space, the opposition is not a punishment. And the country is watching the harder facts of these months. Harder violence, which we hoped was behind us, has shown its ugly face again. Leaders have been stoned at markets, opposition figures assaulted, and our church leaders demeaned and insulted. To put it bluntly, stone throwing demeans everyone. The one who throws the stone, the one it strikes, and the country that just watches. There is also a word that has entered our politics, spoken by some leaders in the ruling party. This word is imingalato. In its lightest form, it means to dribble, to dodge a rival on the field. But imingalato carries a heavier shadow. It means to outwit by hook or crook, to trick, to win by cunning rather than by truth. It does not carry within it fairness or dignity or respect. In fact, it subtracts from the very values that you, Mr. President, championed when you were in opposition. One can only hope that you would rebuke your fellow leaders when such words are used. Mr. President, in some of our languages, as you know, the term opposition comes close to the word enemy. This is a quiet poison. It teaches the heart that the one who differs from me is the one I must destroy. But the term opposition should not mean enemy. It simply refers to those who hold a different view or bring a different offering to the country. Think of the market. When 2 traders compete for the same customer, the customer gains. The vegetables are fresher, the price fairer, the service kinder, because neither can grow lazy while the other is near. Take the competition away, and the customer suffers. Politics is meant to work the very same way. Political parties compete for office so that the Zambian people, in the end, are better served. The opposition, then, is not a threat to the nation, but a gift to it, keeping the government honest and sharp. In the long term, government and the citizens need good and strong opposition. And this cuts both ways. To those of you who seek to replace the president, hear this too. Those in government are not your enemy either. Politics should be a contest of ideas, of vision, of aspiration, not a war between enemies, but a competition between neighbors, sisters and brothers who love the same land. Mr. President, let us check the country's pulse. 3 voices. They will not speak. You and I will listen. The first is Luando in Kabwata, Lusaka. He is your friend who once believed in your reforms and still does, in part. But the calls between the two of you have grown fewer, and the doors that opened in 2021 have, in places, closed. He is not asking for a seat in cabinet. He is asking to remain in conversation with you.
You're okay. You may go.
The second is Namwene, a young trader in Isoka. She did not vote for you. She wants to know whether she still counts, whether the recovery the radio speaks of will reach her the way it is reaching the places that voted yes. And a third voice, a mother in Kitwe, whose son came home bleeding the day politics turned to stones, asks only why, in 2026,
What happened?
a young man can still be heard for the color of his shirt. Mr. President, there is a complaint in the land. Whether it is wholly true or partly true, you are better placed to judge than I. The complaint is that the democratic space in Zambia is shrinking, that laws which feel punitive make people afraid to speak, that voices which offer another way, the civil society groups, researchers, church leaders, are waved aside as though they were the opposition and therefore the enemy. If this is happening, Mr. President, even a little, it does not serve you. A leader who makes people afraid to speak, does not win their agreement. He only loses his knowledge of what they truly think. A president walking in a room with the lights turned low. The wider the space you open, Mr. President, the safer your seat is, not the weaker. When a head of state widens the ground on which others may stand, people feel safer. They feel safer with such a leader, and they want him to continue. In a world torn by polarization, the leaders who will endure are those who build bridges, not the ones who burn them. Mr. President, as a man of scripture, you recall the biblical story when a lawyer asked the Lord, "Who is my neighbor?" The Lord did not give him a definition. He told him a story. A man fell among thieves who beat him and left him half dead on the road. A priest came, a respected man, and crossed to the other side. A Levite came by, a temple man, and crossed to the other side. And then came a Samaritan, a man from the despised people, the people the listeners would have called enemy, the wrong tribe, the wrong party. and it was the Samaritan who stopped. He bound the wounds. He poured out his own oil and wine. He put the man on his own animal, took him to an inn, and paid for his care from his own pocket. Then the Lord turned the lawyer's question around. He did not ask which of these was a good neighbor to his own kind. He asked, which of these was neighbor to him who fell among the thieves? And the answer was the outsider, the one from the other side. Go and do likewise, the Lord said. Mr. President, the genius of that story is that the hero is the one the crowd had written off. In our Zambia, the man bleeding on the road may be wearing the colors of another party. The test of a president for all is whether he crosses the road or passes by on the other side. The Lord was not marking out one good person in a crowd of strangers. He was saying that every person on that road was bound to every other, whether they knew it or not. So it is with us. The farmer in Chipata and the fisherman on Lake Bangweulu, the one who wore your colors and the one who wore another's, all of them are neighbors. Neighbors not because they agree, neighbors because they share one road, one country, one soil. Your Excellency, permit me to turn for a moment to those you are competing with, to the leaders of the opposition, to every man and woman vying for public office in August. This word is for you too. The Samaritan on that road was not the one in power. He was the one passing through, the outsider, the one others had written off. And yet, the whole weight of the story rests on what he chose to do. So the leadership responsibility falls on you too. You are neighbors to this country before you are its rival for office. Do not let the hunger for power teach your heart to see the president or his supporters or the man who differs from you at the rally as an enemy to be destroyed. Yes, contest hard. Contest with everything you have. But contest as one who loves the same Zambia. Speak of your opponents as you would wish to be spoken of. Refuse the stone. Refuse the stick. Refuse the word that hurts. Refuse imingalato. For the country is watching you too, asking of every leader on every side the same question. When you find your countryman or woman wounded on the road, will you cross over to help him or her, or pass by because he or she wears the wrong colors of the t-shirt? Mr. President, everything I've said tonight asks one hard thing of a leader. It asks for courage. Not the courage to shout the loudest or to crush a rival, but the more unusual courage to do the right thing when the easy thing is close at hand. The courage to widen the space when narrowing it would be safer. The courage to welcome the one who opposes you when your own people would cheer you for shutting him out. the courage to be a president for all, when being a president for some would win the next applause. Your Excellency, remember what the very word leadership carries within it. It reaches back to an ancient root, the word life, which meant to go forth, to cross the threshold, and in its oldest sense, to die. To lead was to be the one who steps across first into the river, into the danger, into the unknown, so that the people may follow safely. Leadership at its root is not a throne. It is a crossing over. And a crossing over always costs the one who goes first. Whoever offers themselves for public service must understand the depth of what they offer. Leadership is no soft chair. To lead is to say, I am willing to die to my own needs, my own comfort, my own dreams, because the life of my people has called me to lay mine down for theirs. If we understood leadership this way, how differently would we contest? How differently would we govern? This is exactly the courage that man from Nazareth showed us. Not the courage to push himself forward, but the courage to love, to care, to reach for the ones the world had left behind, and in the end, to lay down his life for others. Mr. President, allow me to remind you and those of you who are competing for power with you of the leadership responsibility given to Simon Peter. Feed my sheep, to repair the breaches, to replant the uprooted, to find the courage of the one who laid down his life not to be served, but to serve. To lead is to cross over first and to lay down your life for your people. If you cannot love them all, if you cannot rebuild what is broken, if you are not willing to die to yourself for their sake, the office is heavier than you know. But if you can, then lead, cross over, and do not leave a single one behind. Mr. President, kindly permit me to make reference again to one of our continent's fathers who understood this to the core. When Nelson Mandela became president, he did not fill his government only with the friends who had suffered beside him. He looked across the deepest divides in his country, and he invited into his cabinet Mangosuthu Buthelezi, the leader of a rival party, a man his own movement had clashed with, sometimes bitterly. He made him minister. He even asked him, on occasion, to act as president in his absence. Why would a man do such a thing? It is because Madiba understood that the wounds of a nation are not healed by the victor keeping all the spoils. They are healed when the victor makes room. It was an effort to bridge the divide and to let the whole country reflect on the value of being one. Obviously, South Africa is not out of the woods yet, but the Madiba stories continue to be food for thought as the country seeks national renewal. Mr. President, our own country offers the same lesson. Ubuntu, the philosophy we carry in our marrow, says a person is a person through other persons. I am because we are. My well-being is intricately intertwined with and inseparable from your well-being. There is no me without us. The idea that the opposition is a separate people, an enemy camp, is foreign to who we are. So here is the creative task before you, Mr. President. The creative task before all of us as Zambians. How do we remain Abantu together, one people, even while we compete for office? That is the brand of democracy we must cut for ourselves, not borrowed entirely from elsewhere, but inclusive and ours. Mr. President, I have a few ordinary suggestions for you. It is not too late to invite fellow political leaders, church and civil society leaders to State House for dialogue. Not a lecture, a genuine conversation as Zambians. Let the country see the president sitting with all of them, the teapot warm and the cameras off. Speak a clear word to your own side on what it may not do and discipline it publicly when it crosses the line. The country will respect you even more, not less. And whatever the August result, name your opponents and thank them for the contest. Should the count go against you, walk to the home of the president-elect and bless the journey. Bless the country. If you win, be gracious in victory. The country will warmly remember your gesture for centuries. Mr. President, as you go to bed tonight, here are a few questions to ponder. When your own people use a word that means to trick or to cheat or imingalato, and you stay silent, what does your silence teach the nation? If a citizen is afraid to tell you what they truly think, have you gained their agreement or only lost your window into their heart? When the result is announced, what do you wish the country to remember of the president? In victory or in defeat, long after the votes are forgotten. Until next week, Mr. President, when we speak of tribe and the one Zambia, one nation idea, hold these with me. May we choose to widen the democratic space, not narrow it. May we speak of one another with dignity, even as we compete. May we remember that the opposition is the country's second voice, a neighbor offering another way, not an enemy. May we awaken our consciences to the sacredness of the presidency of our beloved country. May we build bridges where the world burns them and practice the Ubuntu spirit together. May God hold this country with both hands. Good night, Your Excellency. Good night, Zambia.